advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for the solo variant or solo run-through or solo adventure of Vindication. If you are wondering, I did the solo adventure 1 Vindication out of the booklet, and there are 2 adventures in this, and the second one seems to be a little more complex in that it actually adds like a creature that looks like you're going to actually go out and fight. But not that it doesn't sound cool or anything, but let's see, what do I think of the solo variant? It's not bad, but I don't know. I like Vindication very much as a competitive game in like with 2 or 3 players, and playing this by yourself, I don't know. It's fine. Like, you have a tracker that will make the game, like, the game will end at some point regardless of how bad or how good you're doing. It's one of those things that it's like, if you're doing really well, then the game will actually probably end a little quicker. Yeah, because you're going to be moving around in terms of lots of points, and then this thing, the time tracker, only moves 2 spaces at the end of each turn. So, and it starts on 15 and it goes backwards, and you start on 15 and you go the same way. And we ended up meeting at around like point 67, and then I moved all the way up, and then you lose points for things that you didn't do or prevented. I think it's pretty cool thematically that the magic that hasn't been on this world is coming back, and it's starting to actually cause the darkness to reawaken, and you're trying to prevent that with a companion. I think that that's really cool. And one praise I gotta give it is it's extremely simple. You play Vindication like normal, but with like a few small adjustments. You now have, like, it's basically almost setup adjustments. You now have a buddy, like a pet almost, and he helps you, clean up these defilement, the defilement blocks, and he also helps you augment some of your abilities, augment your potential in your cubes. So you actually have an ability that kind of does that for you. You don't have to hopefully get lucky and find a companion that allows you to do that, or really spend all your time going into knowledge in the monastery that lets you do it as well. I will say, if this allows you to go in the strategy that you kind of want, versus whenever you're playing against other players that, depending on what they're doing, you might not be able to continue. It's like, oh, I really want that monster to fight. Someone else might do it before you. So you don't have to adjust for that. You can make all the combos that you want and see if it's going to be a good enough combo to be able to beat the time track, and then of course the negative points at the end. I do like that. I like the simplicity, because some solo variants are like, hey, how there's this game? Throw that away, because here's the new solo rules, and it's like a dictionary of rules, and you're just like, oh god, I don't want to learn all that. Because they're meant to simulate other players. A lot of them are kind of meant to simulate other players, and this doesn't do that. You actually have your own solo adventure where it's like, hey, you're here to vindicate yourself, and I guess Vindication kind of is, you are really, it is kind of solitaire. The only real player interaction is the area control nature, where you get points at the end of the game for each area you control, and that is kind of here, but in reverse. Because of the defilement cubes, it locks you from going to certain places. Like, if there's a cube on it, it can't go there. And each time you visit somewhere, 2 cubes come out to the places you didn't visit. And then that, if you visit again, it's a pretty neat puzzle, because then if you were to move 2 spaces away and you want to visit another one, well, it's like you might be destroying a tile, because that's also adjacent to the new place you just visited prior to your prior turn, which you already put a cube on. So then that will destroy it, and once you can't do anything about that. Once it's gone, it's gone. And that's one way you can lose, by having these 6 tiles come out, and it's also -3 points at the end of the game. So I like that. I always enjoy, like, trying to beat, like, it's almost like a high score kind of thing. Like, I ended on 92, and the final thing ended on 67. But I think that was more just dumb luck and how the monsters were coming out, how they completely, like, kind of, they complemented each other as well as what I was already doing. One negative I actually have for the solo variant, and this was something that I mentioned in the discussion for the actual run-through, we played with 3. I was the only one. I enjoyed it with more people because that meant that the map was going to be filled out a lot more, and that meant you knew where places were going to be, so you can do a strategy that you want without having to sit there and just spend a lot of it searching for certain locations. Both Brad and Kat didn't like that. They actually enjoyed it, and I get it. I like the exploration and seeing how the map's going to come out. But at the same time, how the map comes out doesn't determine your strategies so much. It hinders it more than anything. And in the solo mode, it is very slow going. Like, whenever I saw the opening 6 cards, I was like, oh, okay, I know what I want to do. I want to get that trait, and I want to kill that monster. And I want to get at least that one person. And for the longest time, I couldn't find an inn. I didn't find the Gaping Maw till the end, and basically I finally found 2 inns, then the Ancient Tomb, and then the Gaping Maw, and it was like, ugh. Like, luckily, you do have enough time with the way that the tracker moves around the opposite edge, so you do have enough time to fill it out, but it's like, come on, I really want to get it going. I very much enjoy that the solo mode isn't, like, aggressively difficult. At least the first one, the solo adventure Vindication. Like, the cubes were there. They were something I had to keep in mind. It was a strategy I had to work around. But at the same time, you can spend conviction to be able to prevent 2 cubes from... It's like, what's cool is that it's not one of those things where it's like 2 cubes come out, spend Vindication to prevent one of them. Nope, you spend 1 to prevent both of them. And I like that. And then you can kind of move around, activate yourself. When you activate yourself, which kind of... You want to activate yourself even more than your companions, then that allows you to activate Tik-Tik. And he... puts cubes back in the supply and lets you augment, so you can get some more convictions to prevent the more tiles from coming out. So it lets you combo off really well, and I enjoy that quite a bit. Like I said, I still enjoy kind of the player interaction, the strategy around other players to compete with. I wouldn't say that this solo variant replaces the competitive nature for me, but I can definitely see Vindication being a game that people get to play solo, because it is a solid solo variant. Because Vindication is already a great game by itself, and at least in the first adventure, you are playing that. You're playing Vindication, but you have black cubes to contend with. And you take some cards out of each deck. I think 30 cards, so was that 5 from each deck? It's not that big of a deal. You're never going to see everything in one deck anyway. I think in this experience, I just had an awesome combination of cards that happened to come out with all the monsters, and then my 2 relics and the 1 trait, and then some of the companions. But maybe that's the reason, is the 5 cards that are taken out of each stack just makes it to where almost every card combos. I have no idea if that's true. But that's how at least it felt. Like, I was sitting there, I'm like, man, that person works well to do this, and this person lets you do this. And then I can kill these 5 monsters and ignore the black die because of that relic happened to come out. It was an awesome experience. I'm not really going to talk a whole lot about my thoughts on Vindication. You can go watch our run-through or our discussion for that. But as for the solo variant, it's pretty good. Like, I think it's actually a really, really good solo variant. I am very curious to see what the second one... Yeah, it's called The Awakening. Yeah, now... Okay, so they combine. So the goal is to join Tik-Tik, your tiny new guardian friend, in lighting pillars of spirit fire around the island, calling forth a resurgence of magic to summon and strengthen the ancient guardian Tuk-Tuk, and improve yourself honorable enough that you heed your call to banish Ronak from the land. So it looks like you are bringing in some of the miniatures, which will be good, and then you're trying to fight against the final bad guy. I think they have lots of room to actually, in future expansions, to make a narrative with this, and I believe that's what their newest expansion is going to be. I hope it's mainly narrative. What I would love to see from this, because they seem to have some kind of connection, at least in the first two adventures, is for the next expansion or next two expansions or next whatever expansions, is they do a heavy focus on narrative for the competitive game, give you as a player a person, maybe not an individual ability, but give you a storytelling reason of why you're here, why you're vindicating yourself or redeeming yourself, because you really, it's just like, if the game's called Vindication, you're trying to prove that you're like innocent and make yourself a better person. And then in the solo, so then have narrative for that, so it makes everyone feel like engrossed in this world that they've created, and then also include like a huge solo adventure book. I think that would be cool, because you have two here and it's very digestible. That's the best part about the solo variant, is that it's extremely digestible. And because, I mean, look, this is a small box. I mean, it comes with the two things. One, you can add leaders into a competitive game, but it also came with the solo thing. So that's one. And then you make a narrative. Hey, here's kind of a campaign of a solo. Campaign for competitive and campaign for solo. I mean, that would be great either way. The other thing I think is interesting is that in the solo variant, the medals, like the endgame trigger, is when you hit those, you roll the 2 black dice, and that's slowly going to be dwindling away your companions or your influence. I will say in the solo variant, I was very low on influence almost all the time. I had to do certain things to slowly start getting them back to where I had to prep for my next turn. But then that turn I'd run low. So it did very much keep you on your toes. I wouldn't say this was easy by any means. So it gives you a decent challenge, but not being overbearingly difficult. And then, let's see. I guess another negative for a lot of people is to even play this, you have to buy the expansion. Like, you have to go out and find the Leaders and Alliance expansion to play solo. I think that's kind of a misstep on their part. They should have just had the solo variant in the base game, but I don't know why they didn't do that. But I mean, it is what it is. I don't believe the expansion is that expensive. I ended up getting all this off their latest Kickstarter, so I believe they're going on Kickstarter again in December for their newest expansion, which I think adds narrative elements. Don't know what it is. There's not a whole lot of information out there, but you can most likely get this and the base game. Let's see. That's pretty much it. Go check out our thoughts on actual Vindication if you want to even know if this game is for you, because like I said, this solo variant was Vindication with like 2 new rules pretty much. But other than that, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'm going to give this solo variant an 8. 8 out of 10. I think it's great. I very much enjoyed it. This would be one that I would be like, I think I'll play Vindication. But I do prefer this as a competitive game, either at 2 or 3. Either number works. But that's it, everyone. That's my thoughts on the solo variant for Vindication. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.